Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining the call today. My name is Ava Blankson. I'm the Chief Marketing and Communications Officer for the NAACP. Tonight we're going to be talking about visuals and how to bring our images to life. I'm joined today by my colleagues Janelle Rucker, as well as Sharday Scott, part of our content team. All of the things that you see us doing on social media and some of the things we're doing on the website, they have been helping on, and so they're going to talk to you about that as well.
And thank all of you all for joining us tonight to talk a little bit about visual storytelling and branding. All right, so some visual storytelling basics. So bear with me for a second. I'm kind of a data nerd. So we went and found some stats for you to really get across, why visual storytelling is important. So the research says that stories can be 22 times more memorable than facts and data. So that's just not even talk about visuals yet, just telling someone a story instead of saying just the stat, it'll stick with them longer. And then on top of that, when you compare that, when you add to that story some type of visual element, a video, a photo, or a graphic, your audience is going to be 6.5 times more likely to remember what you're trying to communicate with them. So that really is kind of the basis of visual storytelling, of the why of it. At its core, visual storytelling is just telling a simple story about your work or your people that uses photography or video or graphics to effectively communicate with that audience. It's become increasingly important in marketing and communications over the past probably more than a few years for multiple reasons. But for us, it's really important because it helps us establish consistency, build trust, and connect with our audiences. So whenever we have kind of this visual story that includes our brand story, it really helps us communicate as one organization across all platforms, whether it's social, whether it's your email marketing, whether it's your website. And so when we have that consistency, it helps to build trust so that anytime anyone sees any material from us, they know that it's us and they know that they can trust that information. And so by establishing that consistency and building that trust, it really helps us form an emotional connection with our audience, and it encourages them to act in whatever way we need them to act, join, donate. It really helps establish that relationship moving forward.
Thank you, Janelle. So telling our story, what does that look like here with the organization? What we've been aiming to do is to effectively tell our story through bold, consistent, and multi-generational imagery. Keep in mind that you all are the authors of your local chapter stories. So we want that to further create a connection with members, donors, and allies so that they can see themselves in the content that you're creating, the stories that you are sharing, and the work that you're doing. And that will further encourage action, whether to be to join, to donate, organize, or amplify the organization's overall message. So I'm not sure if you have been to our social media platforms recently or our website, but a lot of things have been changing there. And we are taking more of a forward approach, using organic shapes, a lot of movement, organic flow, captivating imagery, and overall to create a new vibe within the organization. We want to appeal to a broader audience to create that brand trust and visibility for multi-generations. And as Janelle mentioned, storytelling is very, very important, but so is the actual brand. You have to create brand consistency so that you can further build trust with viewers and members to further, I guess, effectively tell the story so that they trust what you're saying and it resonates with them. To do so on the local level and just to keep us accountable at headquarters, we've created an NAACP brand guide. And I'll get into the contents of that brand guide in the next few slides. We're looking to also create an NAACP branch website manual to help our local branches stand up their websites visually and kind of get into that digital world a bit better. Overall, again, this will create brand consistency to further amplify the visual storytelling of the organization on all levels. So inside the brand guide, you will find such content as our official NAACP logos and their approved colorways, official NAACP colors and approved complementary colors to further entice viewers with your content. As well as approved fonts for social media, documents, and that type of thing. You'll also find do's and don'ts on the logo usage, as far as like changing the colors and distorting the logo as a whole, letterhead templates and merchandise suggestions. On the branch level, you all do have the ability to create your own merchandise for fundraising events and so forth. However, we just ask that the logo isn't changed or affected in any kind of way. And that kind of leads us to NAACP official logo use. The seal is near and dear to our organization. And recently we've done some studies to show that people, however, have been resonating a lot more with the actual letters of the organization. So the NAACP versus the seal independently. And so we're strongly encouraging the use of either the seal and the word mark lock up together for your state conferences or local branches, or just a word mark independently. We are discouraging the use of the seal by itself. And that's, again, to create brand recognition across the board. So if you all do not have updated logos, please feel free to reach out to me and I can create those for your organization, well, for your branch, excuse me. So what does all of this look like as far as a visual storytelling and like picture-wise? Janelle mentioned graphics, pictures, video. And so we're going to kind of get into like a little, kind of like a game. So which picture tells a better story? The one on the left or the one on the right? And you all can respond in the chat. I kind of can't see it. So I'll just continue to kind of talk through it. The picture on the left is low res, low quality. The people are just kind of standing around. I'm not too sure what kind of event this must be. Maybe it's a speaking engagement, but what story can you pull from this other than they're standing there posing for a picture? However, the image on the right, you see people working. They look like they are clearing the way for some type of foundation. They have NAACP apparel on. You can kind of connect and see that they're actually doing the work of the organization. I might be more tempted to go ahead and sign up for their next event by seeing this, seeing them actually working in their community versus standing around for a photo op. And what about this picture? The image on the left, although it looks like they had a really, really great turnout at the event, I can't really tell what they're doing, or I'm not getting a particular vibe from this image. They all just look like they're sitting in the room listening to something, but it's not really resonating with me. However, the image on the right, you can see that the people are listening very intently. You can tell by their facial expressions. The gentleman looks like he's capturing the moment with his phone. So you know that something important is being said, something that you might want to take with you once you leave that event. So we want you all to focus on images such as the ones that have been on the right when capturing event photography, like an event and everything like that. That way, when you're posting on social media and websites, it will help to draw people in. They might want to know your story more. A picture is truly worth 1,000 words, and they may not even get to what you've written up about your event if the picture or graphic hasn't pulled them in.
All right. Thank you for that, Sade. So now we are going to chat a bit with Arturo from Getty. So Arturo is an entertainment staff photographer at Getty, and he's worked in photography both professionally and as a hobby for more than 5 years. Some of his work includes photographs from the Oscars, the Super Bowl, and the VMAs. And today he's joining us to help us think through what we could do in our units to capture better images. So thank you, Arturo, for being here.
Absolutely, it's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
So we just kind of walked through a couple of images around trying to kind of decide what tells the better story. Can you tell us a little bit about what makes a good photograph? What makes a good shot?
Well, for me, is when there's emotion involved. I think that every person who sees an image, or at least they like an image, they tend to respond to it, whether it's positive or negative, but it has some type of influence. So for me as a shooter, my goal is, and I'm a naturally emotional person, just putting that out there, just being honest. I try to go for the emotion. So I like to see people smiling or frowning or dancing or whatever I feel like is true and genuine to what my why is, and how I want my viewer and how I want my audience to perceive the same vision that I had. Taking the photo is what my goal is. So that, for me personally, is to just be as specific and shooting with an intention, opposed to just trying to quote unquote capture a moment, right? Because in my expertise, 9 to 10, that moment that you're trying to capture had already passed, or you're going to be waiting around for it. So it's really just being intentional and trying to find the imagery, try to find the emotion, try to find the story, try to find the reason why you're even intrigued by that moment, or why you even bring your camera up to focus in on that moment. So I think that as a photographer or as a documenter or a storyteller, it's important to just be true to your vision, of course, whatever you may represent with that imagery as well, because imagery is very, very powerful, and it can change lives in all types of ways.
I really love that, the shooting with the intention. I think that does make all the difference, and probably is what's behind a lot of the photographs that a lot of us have seen and really been impacted by.
Yes.
These two of yours that are here are really nice.
So
yeah,
I had to make this one happen. I may just go into detail with this one on the left. The one on the left, I apologize for cutting you off, but I get really passionate about this because this shot right here, it was two locations, and it was, of course, at the height of the BLM movement, and Freddie Gray I can't think of the name right now. It's bad, but it was at the height of all of that, and it was in my heart to make sure that this particular moment, this particular assignment did not get undershot at all. So I made sure to bounce between both locations, and even found a way to get to the roof of a surrounding apartment complex. And luckily, I was able to talk to the security guard, and she, let me go up there. I let her know I wasn't crazy or anything like that. I come with just, equipment, camera equipment, and she let me up there. And the mayor himself just appreciated the fact that I was able to capture that moment, because no one else had really thought that much about the fact that this, it should be an aerial shot opposed to just being on the ground. And the right shot, that was just me just seeing exactly what I want. Happiness, for a sad moment, but nonetheless, that's who we are, as people. And I feel like imagery really truly shows that. And this is the one way where, someone's negative opinion could you can't look at that photo and tell me those are bad people. You know what I mean? So I feel like that's another thing that these images can do, that you really show another character, you show the true character, and not just a whatever's comfortable.
Yeah, that's great. So in the next 5 minutes, tell us how to do this. So tell us how. Keeping in mind that a lot of times, we and our members will have events. Sometimes we might only be out there with our cell phones. We might be able to bring in someone to get an image, but tell us the things to keep in mind so that we can make sure to capture more images of movement, like you said, and of groups of people or individuals, but really capturing the movement piece.
You really have to have your eyes everywhere. Your eyes have to be on complete swivel. You know what I mean? Like, you have to see what's going on. You have to know why there's a crowd, forming over here. You have to be able to hear like, for example, on the right, that's DMX's funeral. I just so happened to see a young man standing on one of the posts, and so I said, "Well, listen, I know no one else is going to get this shot," so I stood on a light post, a couple light posts away from him. Now, I wouldn't recommend or advise necessarily doing that, but but if you really want that shot, you're gonna figure out a way to get exactly the shot that you want. And I mean, it's one of those powerful moments. Like, it moves me. If it moves me, I know it's going to move my people, or those who can relate to the same imagery that I'm trying to capture. Because, and I know that we don't really see ourselves like that. So that's another motivation to make sure I continuously photograph those who look like myself, or at least with the same purpose and intent that we're out there for. And it makes it even more easier for me to see things unfold, just because of my, I truly care about this. I truly care about representation and just documenting a moment that, not everyone will be able to experience, but they will be able to relive it through these images. And so that's the main thing. It's like telling an ultimate story. If you have people like, okay, let's say, for example, on the right, DMX, you know that he's part of the Rough Riders. So I want to make sure I find a member of the Rough Riders organization with their jacket on, and hopefully amongst others, where I get a group shot. I know that everyone threw up the X sign when he was alive, even to this day. So I had to make sure I found a person or people or persons, who threw up the X sign. You got to find tears. I mean, you don't necessarily want, that's not maybe something that everyone to relive, but that's still happened. It's still a movement, and it still touched you, and that's still something to remember. So I look for all that. I look for the dirt bike. So it's literally just knowing before you even go into a shoot, or before you even go into, like, say you're going on vacation, you said you had your cell phone, right? You're going to the Maldives, or you're going to Bali, or you're going somewhere where aesthetically you're going to want to have your camera out, right? Santorini, you're going to want to have your camera out. So it's almost like, all right, if our hotel is here, well, let me do my research. What's around where we're staying, with the restaurants that we're going to eat, what are the attractions that we're going to attend, and then you gauge, okay, now I need to make sure I prepare myself attire-wise, and prepare myself to have my mind in a space where I know I'm going to be capturing some moments, but still enjoy the moment as well. That's the difference, though, between vacationing and, like, out there with, like, let's just say on an assignment, right? I know for a fact that I'm trying to get every single detail. Whereas maybe if I'm on vacation, I still want to enjoy myself, but I know I'm going to still document the moment that I was here. But that's just my approach. And then, of course, if I see something that just captures me, I got to get the shot. Nonetheless, I always have my camera on me, and I know I'm by far the worst iPhone photographer that I've ever met. So,
All right. So it sounds like we need to be intentional. We need to do
emotional.
Emotional. Do a little bit of pre-planning before we
Yes.
go, like, know kind of what it is that we want to get. Do you have any tips for all of your images are very focused? So as earlier, we looked at like a group shot of a conference room that didn't really have a focus. Yours seemed to be focused in on one person or like a couple of people. is that something that we really need to think about when we take pictures?
Yes, absolutely. Because I would say as far as that photo that was shown, to me, it would be a bad photo as well, only because who's speaking or what are they, like you said, what are they there for? There was really they could have been anyone, they could have been in any situation. There's no context, there's no storytelling. There's nothing there there's no banner anywhere that we could visually see. Because like, this is the thing, it's okay if like, because there's that part of documentation where you can be creative now. So, but that's when you have already understood that you have the actual photo that you need to tell the story, and then you can find other ways to be creative to fulfill yourself. Now, me, I shoot for posts, like I shoot with the idea of what I already know how it's going to look when the photo is deliverable. So, like for example, what you're looking at now, in my mind, I just knew I had to capture this moment. It was like the perfect moment to get all of the different types of Black women that was at this event, and all of them, just had their own purpose of being there. And I was taking a group shot, but then I said, all right, and we're done. And it just busted out into this moment. I'm like, whoa, that's powerful. And then once I stopped it, and once I actually looked back at the photo, I'm like, yes, this is this is exactly how I want it. This is exactly how I see it, and this is all of them in one shot, literally. And I also had like a collage mentality with this particular photo. So it's important to show everyone, just like in short, it's important to single out who. I apologize, I'm in New York City. It's important to show like who the speaker is. Like for example, when we're on the carpet and we have a talent in front of us, we definitely want to get eye contact. We never want to cut their heads off. We always want to have or not cut their feet off, right? So there's 3 shots that you have to get. I don't care how creative you want to be or what moment you saw an opportunity to become famous. Like, no, you have to get your headshot, your 3/4 shot, and your full body. Once you do that, you can then figure out a way to include, okay, now we got that. Where are we? Okay, what are the interactions that these people are having amongst each other? Why are we here? So it's like if you shoot for just one person, then it should definitely make sense as to why you're shooting them. And if you're shooting a group, it's no different. It should make sense as to why you're shooting a group. It's just paying attention to what's around it. Like that's why I always say you can't just shoot. You have to know why you're photographing what you're photographing, and it saves you time because that way you don't have to go through all these photos at the end of your day and trying to find the best photo where you already knew once you took it that was the one that you wanted to be the cover.
All right. Those are great tips. So shoot with intention and emotion, do a little bit of planning, but also be flexible because you never know what you'll get out there. And then also it sounds like there's an element of editing. So looking back through, seeing what you have and really choosing the images that speak to the story that you're trying to tell. Thank you, Arturo. Thank you for joining us and for all your tips.
I apologize for this New York background. That's where I am right now.
No, you're fine.
It's a pleasure. If you have any other questions, email me, DM me, cell phone me. Doesn't matter. I'm available to you all.
All right. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you all. Stay blessed.
All right. So I hope you all were able to take something away from what Arturo shared, and we have a couple of extra tips and tricks for you. So the first is really show, don't tell with your images. A lot of what Arturo was just explaining to us, really be intentional with what you're shooting and the story that you're trying to tell. A picture really is worth 1,000 words. Something that I think is really important, especially as we shape our story, really know your audience. So pay attention to the images and the videos that you post that your audience responds to really well, but also pay attention to things that they don't respond to. Things like your website analytics and your social media analytics, even things just as simple as like, I posted this video, it was black and white, it was of this person talking, and it got a ton of likes compared to the still image of a landscape that only got 2 likes. Feedback like that can really help you kind of shape your strategy and your images moving forward. And then be timely. So we want to make sure that we're always using current images that reflect the people and the work that we're doing right now. I know there are some times when we're posting about things that have historical significance, and then it might be fine to use some older images, but we really want to try to show the now. So consider getting professional headshots of at least your unit president and youth council president. Those are just great things to have on file, to use around social media, to use on the website or in your email marketing. And then what we've talked a lot about is catching the action. So it's fine to get some group shots, some pose shots, but everything doesn't have to be that. It doesn't have to be a portrait. Show people actively doing the work. If you're hosting an event, bring in a photographer to capture some high quality images. You'll be able to use that to recap the event that you're hosting, but that also helps you build kind of like a repository of images that you can use down the line for other purposes. And then just always, we want to be authentic. We just always want to be ourselves. If your unit and the work that you're doing, you know, is more about like barbecues than brunches, if it's more about outdoors than indoor, you know, big galas, then that's what it is. And that's the story that you have to tell. So it's important that we mirror our communities and that we are consistently who we are.
And next, you'll find some storytelling resources. These resources will ultimately help you to be a little bit more independent and effectively communicating across all platforms. So we've listed some social media design phone apps that you can download on typically an Android or iOS device, over Unfold, Canva, and Bannersnack. They do have free capabilities, but they also have premium subscriptions that'll unlock special features. You can use those apps when creating content for your social media platforms to further enhance and spread your visual message. They also have website counterparts. So Canva has a website and you can do things on their website, not just on your phone. And I listed a few other ones as well, like Adobe Express and Creatopi. And as we've all mentioned, visual storytelling is very important, and sometimes you may not have those shots. So we've listed a few stock image websites that you all can go to. Again, they do have free content, but then they also have premium content where you can, again, get access to more selections with their paid subscriptions. But these tips and resources should help you all to effectively communicate your stories across all platforms. So we've reached the questions.
We are expecting live questions.
Right. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now going to go into our question and answer. And Janelle, if you want to stop share for just a second, because we're going to pull people over to the panelist side and allow them to ask their questions on screen. Let me see. The first one that I'm going to pull over, Miss Christy Anderson. I'm going to be sending you, you should now have a link that will allow you to come over to the panelist side. And if you would just go ahead and click on that. And then I would like for you to go ahead and turn on your camera as well. and then I'm going to bring you down onto the screen so you can ask your question. Ms. Anderson?
Good evening. Thank you very much. I work for a nonprofit organization, and when we take photographs of individuals, there's a very strict policy that we have to have them sign a release giving us permission to use their photo in any type of public relations work that we do. And I'm just wondering if you recommend like having a written release form, or at least asking people ahead of time. Our policy right now with our photographer for NAACP events is to have the photographer ask people in advance if they mind having their photograph taken, but we don't do anything in writing, and just wondered what your thoughts were on that. Thank you.
So a couple of things that you can do when you're setting up your event and you have an event registration or things like that on the website, you can just put in a line that says, do we have your permission to take images, or we're going to be taking images at this event that are going to be used for X, Y, and Z. So you just put it within your registration or a sign in at the event or anything that gives you access to all of the people that are coming to the event, so that you're not asking each individual person or group for permission. I think Sade was also going to add something.
I was going to say that. I've seen where they've done that, like put the disclaimer out there that pictures will be taken here and can be used for promotional purposes. So they're already aware.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your question, Ms. Anderson. And next up, we have Ms. Deborah Morgan. Ms. Morgan, if you would like to go ahead, and if you start your camera, I can bring you down onto the screen and go ahead and ask your question.
Okay, I have to make sure I look presentable.
We don't mind. We don't mind.
I just had a simple question. Where could we find the toolkit with all of the guides you have for the color scheme and everything? Where could we find all of that information?
It's currently located on the NAACP website,
Okay.
but there'll also be a link with access in the folder that Kevin had mentioned earlier.
Okay, I missed that. I came on later. Thank you.
Okay, and let me see. Most of the questions, guys, that we have were around where you could locate the brand tool guide kit, but we do have a question from Mr. Robert Blue. And Mr. Blue, if you can go ahead and click on this link, I'm going to pull you over to the panelist side so you can go ahead and ask your question. We are waiting for, there you are, brother. If you want to go ahead and turn your camera on, I can drop you down onto the screen.
Hello.
There you go.
Hi. I heard the mention of a website guideline. What is that going to include? Is there going to be like page examples, sample content we can use, different types of like wireframes to build our pages? What types of things is the website guideline is going to have?
So currently it's still in the process of being developed, but yes, it'll have like sample banners, sample page layouts. I'm not too sure yet about actual like wireframes and like that type of like coding, but visually it's supposed to give you all a better base for when you all are creating your websites on the branch level.
So like, are there going to be templates? Is there any recommendation on the type of websites we build, like difference between WordPress, Wix, Squarespace, anything like that?
That again hasn't been fully fleshed out, but my recommendation would be whatever would be easier for you all to manage. I know that like Wix, Squarespace, they're all template based, they're pretty user friendly. So if you all are able to handle that on the branch level, then I would definitely push you all towards that, and then just use the approved fonts and colors from the current brand guide. They'll be the same inside the web guide as well.
Thank you.
No problem.
And thank you, Mr. Blue. I'm going to go ahead and switch you back over to an attendee. That actually wraps up the questions, guys, that we had in the box, except, wait, no. We've got Miss President Daniela Pierre from the mighty Miami branch, and I do want to make sure that we get Sister Pierre in here. So, Daniela, you already know the drill. If you can come on over, turn your camera on, you will be the last question.
Good evening, and thank you so much for this opportunity. Excellent training and great tips shared from everyone. Just a quick question. As it relates to us using our Zoom platforms now, just wanted to get your thoughts as to how it relates to individuals who are on a said NAACP meeting and using various backgrounds during that meeting, such as sorority backgrounds or their business backgrounds. That's one of the questions. And the second question is for those opportunities that we have to work collectively in the community. Oftentimes, we get the pictures taken of us, but in the same way, we have on our NAACP paraphernalia. So is it okay for us to, be in those photos with other community groups? Thank you so much.
To your second question, I think it's absolutely fine to be in your paraphernalia with other community groups. I think in thinking of the overall NAACP story, part of our story is collaboration. Part of our story is doing the work in our communities with other people. And so that would be the part of the story that you're showing with that. So that would be fine.
Thank you.
To your first question, I'm not too sure about the promotion of said business in a Zoom meeting. I think sorority information is fine. And my ultimate goal or hope is to create some type of templates or graphics for the branches on the local levels to use in those types of elements too, so that they have, NAACP Zoom backgrounds and, all the other things that they would need, again, to enhance visually. So that will, at some point, that will make its way into the guides and into the links and everything like that for everyone to access.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
And President Pierre, before you leave, let me just say this, because I heard the subtext underneath the question. Okay, so I've been doing this for a minute. I heard the statement embedded in the question. You are the president. As the president of the branch, and this is something that I want everybody to hear. As the president of the branch, you are an ambassador of the brand. You have an obligation to make sure that we are always representing the brand. We do not have an obligation to make sure that we provide a platform for everybody to promote whatever it is that they want to promote. So if you are doing a Zoom meeting, and please forgive me, I don't know what's going on with my eye, but if you were doing a Zoom meeting, go through your settings, right? You have the ability to control whether or not someone's video shows, or you can turn that video off and they cannot turn it back on unless you ask them to turn it back on. So as the person who is charged with leading the executive committee, you are ultimately responsible. Well, directly the executive committee, but you as the conduit for the executive committee, you're ultimately responsible for that representation. If you are having a meeting and people are using it to go ahead and promote their brand, If it's necessary for you to go ahead and either shut someone's camera down or remove somebody from a meeting, then you shut their camera down and you remove them from a meeting. I do these trainings all the time. And everybody who starts with us does not end with us. But that's because I have an obligation to make sure that these are representing the brand in a way that, you know, provides value and a value add for everybody else who stays here. The same goes for you as the branch. So if someone is there and they're promoting something else, and that becomes a distraction, or it's something that is outside of the purview of what the executive committee wants or wishes, then go ahead and turn that camera off. You know, and just make sure everybody understands it's not personal, but we are here to represent something that was here before us. It will be here after us. We have a temporary time in these seats. Our job is not to try to personalize it or figure out how we can use it to leverage something else in our lives. We are using the brand. We are upholding the brand during this few moments that we have it. So just make sure that everybody uses it responsibly.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Are hardcore, Kevin. So let me add that as we continue to gain, you know, the brand continues to grow, we continue to gain followership. The NAACP, how people look at the NAACP has changed over the last 3 to 5 years. So the things that you might have been able to get away with, or the things that, you know, nobody would have noticed that it's an NAACP something, now people notice, right? And so we have to come correct all the time. And so as you're going through and doing events, and, you know, a lot of you I see are on social media and you're doing panels, and we're doing a lot of great stuff out here. Make sure people know that it's the NAACP that's doing the work, that you're capturing the images and the moments of the action, that we're using the 5 letters all the time in a bold and expressive way, that we're not hiding. You know, people will have us put on an event and they'll put everybody else's logo on except ours. We are in control of our story. We are in control of our destiny. We are in control of the way we show up, not just for our members, but for our funders and our sponsors and the people in the community who, you know, when we do research, people say, I didn't see NAACP in my community, but I know that NAACP put the event on, right? And so it is important, not just because it's pretty or it's visual, yes, but the visual is to get mind space. It's to tell the person and their brain, not in this moment, but 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes from now, that yes, the NAACP was there, the NAACP was in my community, the NAACP helped me in this situation, the NAACP spoke up, the NAACP spoke out. So that's what it's about. It's about getting that mind space so people see us, remember us, when we go out and say it's time to vote and we're about to knock on some doors and we need volunteers and all of these things. Everything that we do now, and every image and every post and every time we plant in somebody's head, the NAACP was here, that helps us down the line. So that is ultimately what we're doing with this visual storytelling. It's like we're just telling people's brains, NAACP was here, NAACP was here, NAACP was here.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are now coming to the end of our training. I hope that this was, well, I shouldn't even say that I hope it was helpful. I know that this was helpful to everybody. This training material will be put into the training folder. You know, before we're going to do kind of a round robin and let everybody say their closing comments, but I do want to recognize and bring down onto the screen so that you can hear from Brother Trevon Williams, the Vice President of Communications. He's been sitting up there all quiet for the night, but everybody needs a chance to hear from Brother Trevon. So Brother Trevon, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Kevin. I was cheering on my colleagues and my teammates there, Janelle and Sade, for doing a fantastic job. Certainly apologies for a little bit of a technical glitch there at the beginning, but nonetheless, just wanted to thank you all for joining, understanding the significance of this moment. I think Abba, Janelle, and Sade pinned this quite well, and that the brand of the NAACP has never been stronger and more prominent than it is in this moment. And so we have such a dynamic opportunity to protect and cultivate the NAACP in such a dynamic fashion in this moment. I think about when I was listening to Janelle and Sade go through the presentation, I think about many of you all probably are familiar with the image of George Floyd's daughter on Stephen Jackson's arms saying, "My daddy changed the world." That image is embedded into our minds. And what it also allowed us to do is harness a rash of emotions that were taking place during everything that took place in 2020 around where do we go from here? What are the actions associated with it? That's the power of an image. That's the power of a video. That's the power of a properly done graphic. It can capture a moment, harness the emotions of an individual in a moment, and then cultivate it into something that is actionable. And that's what we're here to do. As an association, we're here to turn the emotions of our moments, take the advocacy actions and turn them into something tangible for our communities in many respects. So as we're looking at how prominent the stage of the NAACP is, as we look at the opportunities that you all as field leadership have to continue to really be the lifeblood of our organization, keep that in mind, that you are not just, you're not just taking pictures, but you're setting the tone. You're setting the tone for what the association is going to look like, feel like, breathe, and how we're going to feel about it, 10, 15, 20 years down the line in many respects as well. It's an exciting opportunity. And I hope that what we've been able to give you all this evening helps in empowering you, emboldening you to take some chances, try some different things in your spaces, get out of your comfort zone in many respects. Within the brand guidelines, we still got brand guidelines, but take all those things into consideration and understand that you have the opportunity to document just how impactful the NAACP has been for our communities. I hope you got so much out of it, and I appreciate the opportunity to be with you all on this evening.